Lisa Martinez sat in the corner booth of Murphy's bar on Luna Station and stared at the amber liquid in her glass. The whiskey burned her throat, but it was nothing compared to the fire in her chest. 3 hours ago, she had been Commander Lisa Martinez of the Earth Defense Force. Now she was just Lisa, a woman with no job and no future. The debriefing room had been cold and sterile. 5 men in expensive suits sat across from her, while she explained what happened at Kepler Station for the 100th time. The alien ship had fired first. Her crew had defended themselves. 37 humans were dead, but they had stopped an attack that could have killed thousands. The Galactic Council representative had shaken his head slowly. The Kepler incident was unfortunate, but humans had shown too much aggression. The galaxy needed peace and cooperation, not warfare. Earth's deep space exploration rights were suspended. All military vessels would return to Sol system immediately. Lisa had kept her face blank during the announcement, but inside she felt something break. 20 years of service meant nothing. Her crew's sacrifice meant nothing. The politicians had decided that being peaceful was more important than being alive. She took another sip of whiskey and watched the other patrons in the dim bar. Most were off-duty station workers trying to forget their troubles. A few were merchants waiting for transport ships. Nobody looked like they belonged to the military, but Lisa had learned to spot the signs. The man at table 6 had been watching her since she arrived. He wore civilian clothes, but his posture was all wrong. He sat with his back to the wall and his eyes moved constantly around the room. His hands rested on the table in a way that meant he could reach for a weapon quickly. When he caught her looking at him, he didn't look away. Lisa finished her drink and signaled for another. The bartender was a friendly woman named Carol, who had served thousands of spacers over the years. She poured the whiskey without asking questions and left Lisa alone with her thoughts. The man at table 6 stood up and walked toward her booth. Lisa tensed but kept her hands visible on the table. He was tall and lean, with scars on his knuckles and a face that had seen too much sun. When he stopped next to her table, she could see the outline of a weapon under his jacket. He didn't sit down without permission. Instead, he stood there looking at her with eyes that reminded Lisa of her brother Kevin. They were the same shade of blue, and they held the same stubborn determination that had driven Kevin to join the archaeological survey despite their mother's protests. The stranger cleared his throat softly and spoke in a voice that was barely above a whisper. His words hit Lisa like a physical blow and made her forget about the whiskey and the debriefing and everything else that had happened that day. He said 3 words that changed everything. They took Kevin. Lisa felt the blood drain from her face. Kevin Ross was her younger brother by 2 years and the only family she had left. He worked as an archaeologist for the Colonial Survey Department and had been part of a team exploring ruins in the Vega system. 3 months ago, his team had been declared lost in a solar flare event. The stranger sat down across from her without asking. He kept his voice low and his eyes on the table between them. His name was Jake Sullivan, and he had been a Navy SEAL until very recently. Like Lisa, he had been discharged for asking too many questions about things the Galactic Council wanted to keep quiet. Kevin's team had not died in a solar flare, Jake explained. They had been captured by ships belonging to the Zephyrian Empire. The same aliens who sat on the Galactic Council and called themselves humanity's friends and allies. Lisa wanted to call him crazy, but something in his voice stopped her. Jake spoke with the flat certainty of a man who had seen terrible things and lived to tell about them. He had been part of a black operations team sent to investigate the disappearance. What they found in the Vega system made him sick to his stomach. The archaeological team's camp had been intact when Jake's unit arrived. No signs of solar flare damage or emergency evacuation. The prefab buildings stood exactly as they had been left, with meals still on tables and research equipment running. But every human being was gone. Jake's team had found tracks leading from the camp to a landing site where the ground showed evidence of heavy ships. Soil analysis revealed trace elements that matched Zephyrian engine signatures. Security footage from hidden cameras showed the entire capture from start to finish. The Zephyrians had surrounded the camp at night using stealth technology. They had used some kind of gas to knock out the humans before loading them onto transport ships. Kevin and his team had been alive when they were taken away. Jake pulled out a small datapad and slid it across the table to Lisa. The device contained copies of the security footage, along with sensor readings and analysis reports. Everything his team had gathered before they were ordered to return to Earth immediately. The official report listed the archaeological team as killed by solar radiation exposure. The camp had been sterilized by automated systems to prevent contamination. Case closed and classified. Lisa watched the footage with growing horror. She saw Kevin stumbling through the gas cloud before collapsing near the communication array. She watched Zephyrian soldiers in environmental suits checking each unconscious human before carrying them away. Her brother was alive but trapped somewhere in alien space. Jake explained that his team had tried to follow the Zephyrian ships, but were intercepted by Galactic Council vessels. The Council representatives explained that the matter was being handled through diplomatic channels. Any attempt to pursue would be considered an act of war against a Council member species. The SEAL team was disbanded immediately upon return to Earth. Its members were reassigned to different units or discharged entirely. Anyone who spoke about what they had seen faced court-martial for violating classification protocols. Lisa stared at the datapad and felt something cold settle in her stomach. The Galactic Council had known exactly what happened to Kevin's team. They had chosen to protect the Zephyrians instead of demanding the return of human prisoners. Jake leaned back in his chair and studied Lisa's face. He had been watching her for weeks, trying to decide if she could be trusted. Her military record was impressive, but more importantly, she had a reputation for putting people before politics. Her crew loved her because she never left anyone behind. The Kepler incident had made Jake certain that Lisa was the right person to contact. She had defended her ship against alien attack despite knowing it would end her career. Someone who made that choice might be willing to make an even bigger sacrifice to save her brother. Lisa looked up from the datapad and met Jake's eyes. She could see that he was waiting for her to make a decision. The smart choice would be to finish her drink and walk away. Report Jake to station security and try to forget what he had told her. But Kevin was out there somewhere in alien hands. Her little brother, who had always believed that humans and aliens could work together peacefully, he had probably tried to cooperate with his captors right up until the moment they started experimenting on him. Lisa closed the datapad and slipped it into her jacket pocket. She finished her whiskey in one burning gulp and stood up slowly. Jake rose with her and she could see relief in his eyes. She asked where they were going and Jake smiled for the first time since sitting down. There were other people who wanted to help, she learned. Former military personnel who had been asking the same questions Jake had been asking. People who believed that sometimes you had to choose between following orders and doing what was right. Lisa followed Jake out of Murphy's bar and into the bright lights of Luna Station's main corridor. Behind them, Carol the bartender cleaned their table and wondered why the woman in the corner booth had looked so angry when she left. 3 words had changed everything for Lisa Martinez. She was no longer a discharged commander drinking away her sorrows. She was a woman with a mission and nothing left to lose. Jake Sullivan led Lisa through the maze of corridors that connected Luna Station's commercial district to its industrial sector. The lights grew dimmer as they walked, and the crowds of tourists and merchants gave way to maintenance workers and cargo handlers. Nobody paid attention to 2 people in civilian clothes walking with purpose. They stopped at a freight elevator that looked like it had not been serviced in years. Jake pressed his palm against a scanner hidden behind a loose panel, and the doors opened with a grinding sound that made Lisa wince. The elevator descended for what felt like forever before stopping at a level that did not appear on any station directory. The corridor they stepped into smelled of machine oil and recycled air. Pipes and cables ran along the walls in organized chaos, while the sound of distant machinery created a constant background hum. Jake moved through the maze of passages like he had walked this route 1,000 times before. Lisa kept her questions to herself as they walked. Whatever Jake wanted to show her was important enough to risk meeting in the station's forgotten depths. The datapad in her jacket felt heavy with the weight of evidence that could start a war, or get them both killed. They stopped at a door marked with warning symbols in 3 different languages. Jake knocked twice, then paused, then knocked 3 more times. The door opened to reveal a woman with graying hair and the kind of scars that came from real combat. Colonel Amy Carter had commanded Marine units on 6 different worlds before being forced into early retirement. The official reason was budget cuts, but Jake had told Lisa the truth during their walk. Carter had been asking too many questions about missing survey teams and alien activity in border systems. The room behind Carter was larger than Lisa expected. Banks of computers lined the walls while holographic displays showed star charts and ship movements throughout known space. 3 other people worked at various stations, and all of them looked up when Lisa entered. Carter introduced her team with military efficiency. Danny Kim had been an Air Force pilot until his squadron was disbanded after reporting unusual alien ship movements near Jupiter. Maria Santos was former Army Rangers who had been discharged for refusing to ignore evidence of alien weapons testing in the asteroid belt. Pete Johnson had designed engines for Navy ships until he started asking why so many vessels suffered mysterious failures near alien space. Lisa studied each face and saw the same thing she had seen in Jake's eyes. These were people who had chosen truth over career advancement. Soldiers who had been betrayed by the very system they had sworn to protect. Carter gestured for everyone to gather around the central holographic display. The star chart showed the local sector with trade routes and colony worlds marked in different colors. Red dots indicated locations where human ships or personnel had disappeared under suspicious circumstances. The pattern was impossible to ignore once you knew what to look for. Every disappearance had occurred near Zephyrian space, or along routes that passed through systems claimed by the alien empire. The official explanations varied from equipment failures to pirate attacks, but the locations formed a clear pattern. Carter touched controls on the display, and detailed reports appeared for each incident. Lisa read about mining crews who vanished without sending distress signals and exploration teams that stopped reporting back to their home bases. Scientists and engineers and military personnel all taken from locations where they should have been safe. The most disturbing cases involved civilian transports that had been found drifting empty in space. No signs of violence or struggle, but every human passenger and crew member gone. The ship's computers showed normal operations right up until the moment when everyone aboard simply disappeared. Jake pulled up Kevin's case file, and Lisa felt her anger growing as she read the details. Her brother's team had been the largest group taken so far, with 43 people, including archaeologists and security personnel. The site they had been investigating contained ruins from an ancient civilization that predated both human and Zephyrian. Expansion into space. Carter explained that the Zephyrians seemed particularly interested in humans who worked with technology or possessed specialized knowledge. Scientists and engineers were targeted more often than ordinary colonists. Military personnel with tactical training were also high-value targets. Danny Kim brought up sensor logs from his final mission before being grounded. His squadron had detected strange energy signatures in the Titan orbital zone, but had been ordered not to investigate. Later analysis of the data suggested the presence of cloaked ships using technology that did not match any known human or allied alien designs. Maria Santos shared intelligence gathered from contacts in the private security sector. Mercenary companies reported increased activity by ships matching Zephyrian signatures in systems where humans later went missing. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Pete Johnson had the most disturbing information of all. His analysis of engine failures in human ships showed signs of deliberate sabotage using techniques that required detailed knowledge of human engineering principles. Someone had been studying human technology closely enough to know exactly how to disable it, without leaving obvious evidence. Carter called up a new display showing the political situation in the Galactic Council. The Zephyrian Empire held 3 seats on the governing body, while humanity had been granted only 1. The aliens had used their influence to block human expansion into resource-rich systems, while claiming those same regions for themselves every time humans had tried to investigate the disappearances. They had been blocked by council regulations or diplomatic protests. The Zephyrians always had reasonable explanations, and the council always chose to believe them over human accusations. Lisa studied the evidence, spread across multiple displays and felt pieces clicking into place in her mind. The Kepler incident had not been random aggression by unknown aliens. It had been a test to see how humans would respond to direct attack. When her crew had fought back effectively, the Zephyrians had used the council to eliminate Earth's military presence in deep space. Carter touched Lisa's shoulder and spoke quietly about the real purpose of the kidnappings. Intelligence suggested that the Zephyrians were conducting experiments on human prisoners to understand what made them so adaptable in combat situations. Humans had a reputation throughout the galaxy for surviving impossible odds and winning battles they should have lost. The alien empire had ruled their region of space for thousands of years through superior technology and overwhelming force. They were not prepared for opponents who could improvise solutions to problems that had no logical answers. Human unpredictability made them dangerous in ways that pure military strength could not match. Jake showed Lisa classified reports from the few prisoners who had been recovered from alien custody. They described being subjected to physical and psychological tests designed to measure human resilience and problem-solving abilities. The Zephyrians seemed frustrated by their inability to predict or control human behavior patterns. Carter explained the group's mission with the same tone she had once used to brief Marines before dangerous operations. They were going to rescue the human prisoners being held in Zephyrian space. The mission would be illegal under Galactic Council law and would probably result in war between the species. Lisa looked around at the faces of people who had already sacrificed their careers for the truth. They were asking her to join them in what amounted to an act of rebellion against both human and alien authority. Success would mean saving Kevin and the other prisoners, but failure would mean death or worse. Danny Kim pulled up navigation charts showing the route to the Zephyrian research facility, where intelligence suggested the prisoners were being held. The journey would take them through 3 star systems crawling with alien patrol ships and automated defense platforms. Getting there alive would require skills that only the best human pilots possessed. Maria Santos displayed tactical information about the facility itself. It was heavily defended and officially listed as a diplomatic outpost in Galactic Council records. Any attack on the site would be considered an act of war, but the group had evidence that it was actually a prison, and research laboratory Pete Johnson outlined the technical challenges they would face. Human stealth technology was generations behind alien systems, but it might be possible to modify a cargo ship to avoid detection long enough to reach the facility. The modifications would be expensive and dangerous to implement. Carter asked Lisa directly if she was willing to join their mission. There would be no going back once she committed and no guarantee that any of them would survive the attempt. The smart choice would be to walk away and try to forget what she had learned. Lisa thought about Kevin unconscious in alien hands and felt her decision crystallize. Her brother had always believed that humans and aliens could coexist peacefully, but the Zephyrians had proven that some species only understood strength. If the Council would not demand the release of human prisoners, then humans would have to rescue them. She told Carter that she was in and watched relief spread across the older woman's face. The mission would need Lisa's navigation expertise to succeed, and Carter had been worried that she might choose safety over action. Jake activated a new set of displays showing ship modifications and equipment acquisition timelines. They had been planning. Lisa spent the next morning in her small quarters on Luna Station, studying the mission files Carter had given her. The target was a facility in the Arcturus system that appeared in official records as a Zephyrian diplomatic outpost, but intelligence suggested it was something much more sinister. The facility orbited a gas giant surrounded by an asteroid field that had claimed dozens of ships over the years. The Zephyrians used the natural hazards as a defensive barrier, while claiming the area was too dangerous for regular patrols. Only the most skilled pilots could navigate the gravitational anomalies and debris, clouds that protected the station. Lisa had flown through similar fields during her military career, but never anything as complex as the Arcturus maze. The asteroids followed unpredictable orbits around the gas giant, while solar radiation from the nearby star created sensor dead zones that could hide ships or destroy navigation systems. The mission plan called for them to approach during a scheduled diplomatic meeting between the Zephyrians and representatives from the Galactic Council. The increased traffic would provide cover for their modified cargo ship, while the political ceremony would distract attention from unauthorized vessels in the system. Pete Johnson had been working around the clock to modify their ship with stealth technology borrowed from a dozen different sources. The cargo vessel looked ordinary from the outside, but its hull now contained sensor baffles and energy dampeners that would make it nearly invisible to alien detection systems. Modifications came with serious risks beyond the obvious danger of being caught. The stealth systems drew massive amounts of power and generated heat that could overload the ship's cooling systems. They would have a narrow window to complete their mission before the ship became detectable or suffered critical failures. Jake had assembled detailed intelligence about the facility's defenses and guard rotations. The Zephyrians maintained a small but elite security force supported by automated weapon systems and energy barriers. The aliens relied on their reputation for overwhelming technological superiority rather than large numbers of soldiers. Lisa studied the guard patterns and noticed something interesting. The Zephyrians changed shifts at precise intervals and followed rigid protocols that never varied. Their military discipline was impressive, but it also made them predictable in ways that human forces tried to avoid. Danny Kim's contribution to the mission was a collection of Zephyrian communication codes acquired through methods that Carter preferred not to discuss. The codes would allow them to monitor alien radio traffic and possibly impersonate authorized vessels during their approach to the IA facility. Maria Santos had gathered information about the facility's internal layout from sources in the intelligence community who still believed that some missions were more important than following orders. The station contained multiple levels with research laboratories on the lower decks and administrative areas near the docking ports. The most disturbing intelligence concerned the nature of the experiments being conducted on human prisoners. Medical reports from previous rescue attempts described evidence of surgical procedures and drug trials designed to understand human physiology and psychology. The Zephyrians seemed particularly interested in measuring human pain tolerance and stress responses. Lisa closed the files and tried not to think about what Kevin might be enduring while she planned his rescue. Her brother had always been the peaceful one in their family, and she hoped his gentle nature would help him survive whatever the aliens were doing to him. A soft knock on her door interrupted her thoughts, and she opened it to find Carter standing in the corridor with a concerned expression. The older woman asked if they could talk privately, and Lisa invited her inside. Carter sat down heavily in the room's only chair and looked older than her 53 years. The stress of planning an impossible mission while staying ahead of government agents was taking its toll on everyone involved in the operation. She explained that their window of opportunity was closing faster than expected. Intelligence sources reported increased Zephyrian security activity throughout their territory, and rumors that the research facility might be relocated to a more secure location. If they were going to act, it had to be soon. Lisa asked about backup plans if the mission failed, and Carter's expression became even more grim. There would be no backup because they were operating completely outside official channels. If they were captured, the human government would disavow any knowledge of their activities. The conversation turned to Lisa's role in the mission and the enormous pressure that would rest on her shoulders. She would be responsible for navigating them through the asteroid field while avoiding detection by patrol ships and automated sensors. One mistake would doom everyone aboard. Carter revealed that she had contacted other cells of discharged military personnel operating in different sectors of human space. Similar groups were planning simultaneous operations against Zephyrian facilities in 3 other systems. The coordinated attacks would prevent the aliens from simply moving prisoners to safer locations. Lisa learned that the disappeared humans numbered in the hundreds rather than the dozens she had initially believed. Survey teams and merchant crews had been vanishing for over 2 years. While the Galactic Council ignored human complaints and blocked investigations, the scope of the conspiracy was staggering when viewed in its entirety. The Zephyrians had been systematically studying human capabilities while manipulating galactic politics to prevent effective responses. They were preparing for something much larger than simple scientific research. Carter stood to leave but paused at the door to share one final piece of intelligence. Communications intercepts suggested that the Zephyrians were planning to present their research findings to the Galactic Council within the next month. The presentation would likely recommend the complete restriction of human expansion into alien-controlled space-time was running out for both the rescue mission and humanity's future among the stars. If they failed to expose the truth about the kidnappings and experiments, then humans might find themselves trapped in the Sol system permanently. After Carter left, Lisa returned to studying the navigation charts for the Arcturus system. The asteroid field was a 3-dimensional maze of tumbling rocks and gravitational eddies that changed constantly as the gas giants' moons altered their orbits. She began plotting possible routes through the debris using techniques learned during her years as a military pilot. Human navigation training emphasized flexibility and improvisation, while alien systems relied on predetermined pathways and computer calculations. The i.e., Zephyrians had lost 3 ships in the asteroid field over the past year. Despite their advanced technology and sophisticated sensors, their pilots followed logical approaches that worked in normal space but failed when confronted with truly chaotic conditions. Lisa realized that human unpredictability might be their greatest advantage in reaching the facility undetected. by taking routes that appeared suicidal. To alien minds, they could slip through defenses. Designed to stop rational opponents, she spent hours running simulations on her personal computer and gradually developed a plan that made her stomach clench with anxiety. The route she had in mind would take them through the densest part of the asteroid field, where gravitational forces from the gas giant created a maze of shifting debris clouds. The approach would require split-second timing and the kind of intuitive piloting that could not be programmed into a computer. Lisa would have to feel her way through the asteroids using instincts developed over 20 years of flying in dangerous conditions. Her door chimed again, and this time, Jake entered carrying a bottle of something that smelled like rocket fuel. He poured 2 glasses and handed one to Lisa before proposing a toast to their success. They drank in silence while thinking about the magnitude of what they were attempting. Tomorrow they would board their modified cargo ship and begin a journey that would either save hundreds of human lives or get them all killed. Jake asked if Lisa was ready for the mission, and she nodded despite the fear gnawing at her stomach. Ready or not, they were committed to action, because the alternative was accepting that humans would remain victims of alien manipulation. He left her alone to finish her preparations, and Lisa spent the rest of the evening writing messages she hoped would never be sent, letters to friends explaining why she had chosen to risk everything for people she had never met, a final message to her parents describing Kevin's fate and her decision to rescue him. As Luna Station settled into its quiet night cycle, Lisa packed her few belongings and prepared for what might be her final mission. The datapad containing evidence of Zephyrian crimes sat on her desk like an accusation against everyone who had chosen political convenience over human lives. She thought about Kevin somewhere in alien space enduring experiments designed to unlock the secrets of human resilience. Her brother had always believed that understanding between species was possible, but the Zephyrians had proven that some aliens only saw humans as subjects for study. Tomorrow would bring either salvation or destruction for everyone involved in the rescue mission. Lisa closed her eyes and tried to sleep while knowing that her dreams would be filled with. The cargo ship Meridian looked like any other freight hauler docked at Luna Station's commercial port, but Lisa could see the subtle modifications Pete Johnson had made to its hull and engines. The stealth systems were hidden beneath panels that appeared to be standard maintenance access ports, while the enhanced sensors were disguised as communication arrays. Carter assembled the team in the ship's cramped cargo bay for a final briefing before departure. The space smelled of metal, polish, and recycled air, while the low hum of the fusion reactor provided background noise that reminded everyone they were about to venture into the void. Their cargo manifest listed them as a medical supply transport, bound for the frontier colonies near vegan space. The cover story would explain their presence in the border regions while giving them a legitimate reason to avoid major shipping lanes where alien patrol ships might ask uncomfortable questions. Jake had acquired black market weapons through contacts in the private security industry. The small arsenal included pulse rifles designed for shipboarding actions and explosive charges that could breach even heavily armored doors. Everything was hidden in compartments that would not show up on routine cargo scans. Danny Kim would handle communications and electronic warfare from the pilot station. His collection of alien communication codes and jamming equipment would help them avoid detection while monitoring Zephyrian radio traffic for changes in security status. Maria Santos had responsibility for the boarding action once they reached the research facility. Her experience with close-quarters combat would be essential for fighting through whatever defenses the aliens had prepared for unwelcome visitors. Pete Johnson would manage the ship's modified systems during their approach to the target. The stealth technology required constant adjustment to maintain effectiveness, while the enhanced sensors needed careful calibration to penetrate alien countermeasures. Lisa's job was to get them through the asteroid field alive and undetected. The navigation challenge would require every skill she had learned during 20 years of flying in dangerous conditions. One mistake would mean death for everyone aboard. Carter outlined the rescue plan with military precision. They would dock with the research facility during the chaos of a diplomatic meeting between the Zephyrians and Galactic Council representatives. The increased activity would mask their arrival, while security forces focused on protecting the visiting dignitaries. The team would split into 2 groups once aboard the station. Jake and Maria would secure the docking bay and prevent alien reinforcements from trapping them, while Carter and Lisa searched For the human prisoners in the facility's lower levels, Danny and Pete would remain aboard the Meridian to monitor communications and prepare for emergency departure. If the mission went wrong, they had orders to abandon the boarding team and return to human space with evidence of the alien conspiracy. The rescue window would last no more than 30 minutes before station security realized what was happening. After that, they would face the full might of Zephyrian technology, including energy weapons that could disable their ship or destroy it entirely. Carter paused in her briefing to address the psychological challenges they would face during the mission. Intelligence reports suggested that human prisoners might be in poor physical or mental condition after months of alien experimentation. Some might not be able to travel or might resist rescue attempts due to trauma. Lisa asked about the extraction plan for prisoners who were too injured to move quickly. Carter's expression became grim as she explained that they would save as many people as possible, but the mission's success depended on reaching the facility undetected and leaving before reinforcements arrived. The harsh mathematics of the rescue operation meant that some difficult decisions might be necessary. Carter had seen enough combat to know that sometimes saving a few people required abandoning others who could not be helped. Jake distributed personal equipment to each team member, including emergency oxygen, supplies and medical kits designed for treating severe injuries. The gear was military grade despite their civilian cover identities and would help them survive the hostile environment of an alien station. The Meridian's engines came online with a deep thrumming that Lisa felt through the deck plating. Pete's modifications had changed the ship's power signature, but the basic systems remained reliable and familiar. She made her way to the pilot station and began pre-flight checks. Luna Station's traffic control granted them departure clearance without questioning their cargo manifest or destination. The cover story held up under routine scrutiny, and within minutes they were accelerating away from the station toward the jump point that would take them into deep space. Lisa engaged the autopilot. Once they reached cruising velocity and joined the rest of the team in the cargo bay where Carter was reviewing intelligence reports. New information had arrived during their final preparations, and some of it was disturbing communications. Intercepts suggested that the Zephyrians were planning to move their research operation to a more secure facility within the next week. The rescue mission had become a race against time as the aliens prepared to relocate their human prisoners to a location that might be impossible. To find even more troubling were reports of increased experimentation on the prisoners as the Zephyrians rushed to complete their research before the transfer. Medical analysis of recovered alien communications indicated that some subjects were not surviving the accelerated testing schedule. Lisa felt her anger growing as she imagined Kevin enduring whatever procedures the aliens were using to study human physiology. Her brother's gentle nature made him unsuited for the kind of resistance that might help him survive alien torture. The journey to the Arcturus system would take 4 days using conventional faster-than-light travel. During that time, they would pass through 3 different star systems where Zephyrian patrol ships maintained regular patrols looking for unauthorized human vessels. Carter had planned their route to avoid major shipping lanes and military installations, but some risk was unavoidable. If they were intercepted by alien forces, their cover story would have to withstand detailed scrutiny from beings who were naturally suspicious of human activities. Danny, Kim monitored communications traffic throughout human and alien space, looking for any indication that their mission had been compromised. The intelligence networks that supported their operation were small and carefully hidden, but the Zephyrians had proven themselves skilled at discovering human secrets. Pete Johnson worked constantly to maintain the ship's stealth systems as they pushed deeper into space where alien sensors became more common. The modifications were holding up well, but the strain on the power systems was enormous and would only get worse as they approached their target. Maria Santos used the travel time to review detailed plans of the research facility while practicing with the weapons Jake had acquired. Close quarters combat in the artificial gravity of an alien station would present unique challenges that required careful preparation. Lisa spent hours studying navigation data for the Arcturus system while running simulations of their approach through the asteroid field. The route she had planned was dangerous under the best circumstances and would become suicidal if they encountered unexpected obstacles. As the Meridian jumped from system to system, Lisa found herself thinking about the broader implications of their mission. Success would prove that humans could strike back against alien oppression, but it would also start a conflict that might destroy both species. The Galactic Council had maintained peace for centuries through careful balance of power between member species. Human aggression in Zephyrian space would shatter that balance and potentially trigger the kind of interstellar war that could devastate entire worlds, but the alternative was accepting that humans would remain victims of alien manipulation while their people disappeared into research facilities scattered throughout the galaxy. Sometimes peace was not worth the price of freedom. On the fourth day, they reached the edge of the Arcturus system and began their final approach toward the gas giant where the research facility waited. Lisa took manual control of the ship and felt her heart rate increase as the asteroid field appeared on their sensors. The moment of truth had arrived, and there was no turning back from the path they had chosen. In a few hours, they would either rescue Kevin and the other prisoners or die trying in the darkness between the stars. Carter stood behind Lisa's pilot chair and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. The older woman understood the pressure Lisa was feeling because she had made similar life-or-death decisions during her own military career. The rescue mission was about to begin, and everyone aboard the Meridian knew that their actions in the next few hours would determine not only their own fates but the future relationship between humans and aliens throughout the galaxy. Lisa gripped the Meridian's control stick as the asteroid field filled their forward screens with tumbling rocks and debris clouds. The gas giant Arcturus Prime dominated the background, like a swirled painting of orange and brown, while its moons created gravitational eddies that sent asteroids spinning in unpredictable directions. Stealth systems were running at maximum power, and Pete Johnson watched his displays with growing concern as heat buildup threatened to overload the ship's cooling systems. They had perhaps 30 minutes before the modifications would fail and leave them visible to every sensor in the system. Danny Kim monitored Zephyrian communications from his station and reported increased traffic as diplomatic ships arrived for the scheduled meeting at the research facility. The alien voices spoke in their musical language about security protocols and guest accommodations. While Lisa piloted them deeper into the maze of rocks, the first challenge appeared as a cluster of asteroids rotating around each other in a complex dance that changed every few seconds. Lisa studied the pattern for precious moments before finding a gap that would allow the Meridian to slip through without collision. She fired the maneuvering thrusters in short bursts and felt the ship respond sluggishly due to the added mass of Pete's modifications. The cargo vessel had never been designed for precision flying, but Lisa coaxed it through the rotating obstacles with the skill that had made her one of the fleet's best pilots. Carter stood behind her chair and watched the navigation display as they penetrated deeper into the asteroid field. Red warning indicators showed multiple collision hazards, while the proximity alarms chirped constantly as rocks passed within meters of their hull. The Zephyrians had lost 3 ships in this field over the past year, and Lisa was beginning to understand why. The asteroids followed no logical pattern that computers could predict, and the gravitational forces changed constantly as the gas giant's moons moved through their orbits. Maria Santos checked her weapons one final time while reviewing the facility's layout on her personal display. Intelligence suggested that human prisoners were held in the lower levels where security was tightest, and escape routes were limited. Jake prepared the cutting charges that would breach the station's hull if they could not dock normally. The explosives were powerful enough to penetrate alien armor, but using them would announce their presence to every guard on the facility. A new hazard appeared on their sensors as a stream of smaller rocks tumbled past their position in a debris flow that stretched for kilometers. Lisa waited for a gap in the deadly river before threading the Meridian through the chaos with centimeters to spare on each side. The research facility finally came into view as they cleared the worst part of the asteroid field. The structure was larger than intelligence reports had suggested, with multiple docking ports and what appeared to be defensive weapon emplacements disguised as communication arrays. Pete reported that the stealth systems were approaching critical temperature as they made their final approach to the station. They had minutes before the modifications would fail and expose them to alien sensors that were undoubtedly scanning for unauthorized vessels. Danny identified the diplomatic ships docked at the facility's main port and confirmed that the Galactic Council meeting was proceeding on schedule. The ceremony would provide perfect cover for their boarding action if they could reach the station undetected. Lisa selected a maintenance port on the facility's lower section that appeared to be unguarded and unused. The docking collar was designed for automated cargo pods, but she thought the Meridian might be able to connect if she could match the station's rotation precisely. The approach required delicate flying as she brought their ship alongside the spinning facility while avoiding the mechanical arms and sensor arrays that protruded from its hull. One collision would destroy their stealth advantage and bring down the full weight of alien. Security contact with the docking collar sent vibrations through the ship's hull as magnetic clamps engaged and formed an airtight seal between the vessels. Pete shut down the overheating stealth systems while Danny confirmed that their arrival had not triggered any security alerts. Carter activated the team's communication system and gave final orders as they prepared to board the alien station. Lisa would remain with the ship to monitor sensors and prepare for emergency departure. While the others searched for human prisoners, the airlock cycled open to reveal a maintenance corridor lit by the cold blue glow of Zephyrian lighting systems. The air smelled of ozone and unfamiliar chemicals, while alien symbols marked passages leading deeper into the facility. Jake took point with his pulse rifle, ready while Maria followed with explosive charges and cutting tools. Carter brought up the rear with a portable scanner designed to detect human life signs among the alien technology that filled the station. Lisa watched from the pilot's seat as her teammates disappeared into the facility and left her alone with the responsibility of keeping their escape route open. The sensors showed no immediate threats, but she knew that could change in seconds if their presence was discovered. The diplomatic meeting was taking place 3 levels above their position in a ceremonial chamber where Zephyrian officials were presenting their latest research to Galactic Council representatives. Danny intercepted fragments of the conversation through his monitoring equipment. The aliens were discussing human adaptability and problem-solving capabilities in terms that made Lisa's blood run cold. They spoke about their subjects like laboratory animals, whose only value lay in the data they could provide through experimentation. Carter's voice crackled through the communication system as the team moved deeper into the facility. They had found evidence of recent surgical procedures and drug trials, but no sign of living prisoners in the upper detention areas. The search continued through corridors lined with alien technology that pulsed with its own internal light. Strange machines hummed behind sealed doors, while automated systems tracked the team's movement. Through the facility's security network, Pete monitored the ship's systems and reported that the cooling systems were recovering from their overload but would need time to reach full capacity. If they had to leave quickly, the stealth modifications might not function properly during their escape through the asteroid field. Danny detected increased communication traffic as station security began routine sweeps of areas not occupied by diplomatic personnel. The aliens were following standard protocols, but their search pattern would eventually bring them to the maintenance section where the Meridian was docked. Lisa felt tension building in her shoulders as she waited for news from the boarding team. Every minute they spent on the station increased the risk of discovery, while Kevin and the other prisoners remained somewhere in the facility's maze of passages. Carter, his next transmission brought both hope and horror as she reported finding the main detention area in the facility's lowest level. The human prisoners were alive but showed signs of extensive medical experimentation that would require immediate treatment. Jake described seeing dozens of people in various states of consciousness, while medical equipment monitored their vital signs. Some appeared to be sedated while others stared blankly at the ceiling as if their minds had retreated from whatever the aliens had done to them. Maria began setting charges to breach the sealed doors that separated the prisoners from their rescuers. The explosives would create enough noise to alert every guard on the station, but they had no choice except to force their way into the detention area. The first explosion echoed through the facility's hull, and Lisa felt the vibration through the Meridian's airlock connection. Alarms began wailing in the alien language while security forces rushed toward the detention level to investigate the disturbance. Danny reported emergency communications flooding the Zephyrian networks as station personnel realized they were under attack. Defensive systems were powering up while guards armed with energy weapons took positions throughout the facility. Lisa started the Meridian's engines and prepared for immediate departure while keeping the docking clamps engaged. The rescue team would have minutes to reach the prisoners and returned before alien reinforcements made escape. Impossible. Carter's voice carried new urgency as she reported that the prisoners were in worse condition than intelligence had suggested. Many were too weak to walk, while others appeared to be suffering from the effects of experimental drugs that clouded their minds. The mission had become a race against time as alien security forces converged on their position while the boarding team struggled to evacuate people who could barely stand. Success would require the kind of desperate improvisation that humans did better than any other species in the galaxy. Lisa watched the sensor displays and prepared to guide her teammates through the most dangerous extraction of their lives while praying that Kevin was among the prisoners they could save before the aliens overwhelmed them with superior numbers and technology. Lisa heard Carter's voice through the communication system, describing the horror of what they had found in the detention area. 43 human prisoners lay in medical restraints while alien machines monitored their vital signs and delivered unknown substances through tubes connected to their bodies. The sight that greeted the rescue team was worse than their most pessimistic intelligence estimates. Some prisoners showed obvious signs of surgical procedures, while others appeared to be subjects in drug trials designed to test human endurance and pain tolerance. Kevin lay unconscious on a medical table surrounded by equipment that hummed with alien energy. His face was pale, but Lisa could see the steady rise and fall of his chest, indicating that her brother was still alive despite whatever the Zephyrians had done to him. Carter quickly assessed the prisoners and determined that most could be moved with assistance while a few required immediate medical attention to survive the extraction. Jake and Maria began disconnecting the alien medical equipment while trying not to trigger any automatic defensive systems. The first group of prisoners showed signs of awareness as the sedatives in their systems began wearing off. They looked around with confusion and fear, while the rescue team tried to explain that help had arrived and they were going home. Lisa monitored security communications through Danny's equipment and tracked the movement of Zephyrian guards throughout the facility. The aliens were conducting a systematic search that would reach the detention area within minutes. Several prisoners were able to walk with support, while others had to be carried by the rescue team members. The human capacity for endurance that had fascinated their captors now helped them survive. The ordeal of imprisonment and experimentation. Carter made the difficult decision to prioritize prisoners who could travel quickly while marking the locations of those who were too injured to move. Jake protested leaving anyone behind, but the mathematics of survival demanded harsh choices. Kevin stirred as Maria disconnected him from the alien medical equipment, and Lisa felt relief flood through her as her brother opened his eyes and focused on the faces of his rescuers. He was weak but conscious and able to respond to simple questions. The prisoners who could walk formed a chain holding onto each other as Jake led them through the facility's corridors toward the docking port where the Meridian waited. Their movement was slow but steady as human determination overcame alien drugs and surgical trauma. Carter stayed behind with the severely injured prisoners and set up a defensive position using furniture and medical equipment as cover. She knew that Zephyrian security forces would arrive soon, and someone needed to buy time for the evacuation. Lisa watched the sensor displays as alien guards moved through the facility and organized search patterns. The Zephyrians were following logical procedures that would eventually trap the rescue team, but their rigid thinking might provide opportunities for escape. The first group of prisoners reached the Meridian, and Pete helped them into the cargo bay where emergency medical supplies waited. Many showed signs of malnutrition and drug dependency that would require professional treatment, but they were alive and free. Kevin leaned against Lisa's pilot chair and spoke in a hoarse whisper about the experiments the aliens had conducted on human subjects. The Zephyrians were trying to understand how humans could adapt to impossible situations and survive conditions that killed other species. The alien research had focused on human psychology and the mental processes that allowed them to find solutions to problems that had no logical answers. Every test was designed to measure human creativity and resilience under extreme stress. Jake returned to help evacuate the second group of prisoners, while Maria set up explosive charges to deny the facility to their captors. The rescue operation was turning into a fighting withdrawal as alien security forces closed in on their position. Carter's defensive position came under attack as Zephyrian guards reached the detention area and discovered the missing prisoners. Energy weapons fired down the corridors, while the older woman used human tactical flexibility To hold off superior numbers, the aliens expected logical resistance from defensible positions, but Carter moved constantly through the maze of equipment while using improvised weapons and environmental hazards against her enemies. Broken medical devices became projectiles while spilled chemicals created barriers. Lisa felt the ship shudder as more prisoners boarded through the airlock connection. Pete reported that they were approaching maximum capacity, while the life support system strained to accommodate the additional people in various states of medical distress. Danny intercepted communications indicating that Zephyrian reinforcements were en route from other parts of the facility. Heavy weapons and armored personnel would arrive within minutes and overwhelm any human resistance. The final group of mobile prisoners reached the ship just as Carter's position became untenable under increased alien pressure. She fell back toward the docking port while Jake provided covering fire with pulse rifle bursts that kept the guards at a distance. Maria triggered her explosive charges and sealed several corridors to prevent alien pursuit, while the rescue team made their final withdrawal to the ship. The facility shook under multiple detonations as crucial systems suffered damage from the sabotage. Lisa began disconnection procedures as the last team members reached the airlock while Pete prepared the engines for immediate departure. They had recovered 31 prisoners out of 43, but 12 people would remain in alien hands forever. Carter was the last person through the airlock, and she carried wounds from energy weapon burns that would need immediate medical attention. Jake slammed the hatch closed and activated the emergency seals as pulse rifle fire sparked against the outer hull. The Meridian pulled away from the research facility as Zephyrian security forces reached the docking port and discovered their escape. Alien ships began launching from other parts of the station while automated defenses targeted the fleeing cargo vessel. Lisa pushed the ship's engines to maximum power as they accelerated away from the facility toward the relative safety of the asteroid field. The stealth systems were still offline from overheating, but perhaps the rocks would provide enough cover to avoid pursuit. Energy beams lanced past the ship as Zephyrian fighters attempted to disable their engines before they could reach the maze of tumbling asteroids. Lisa flew an evasive pattern that made targeting difficult while pushing deeper into the debris field. The alien fighters were faster and more maneuverable than the modified cargo ship, but they lacked the human ability to improvise solutions to navigation problems. Lisa used her knowledge of the asteroid patterns to lead them into gravitational traps that claimed two pursuers. Pete reported that the rescued prisoners were in various conditions ranging from stable to critical, but all were responding to human medical treatment. Kevin was among those who would recover fully, while others faced long rehabilitation from their ordeal. The facility disappeared behind them as they penetrated deeper into the asteroid field where alien sensors could not track their movement effectively. Lisa found a hollow space between several large rocks and shut down all non-essential systems to avoid detection. Carter gathered the team in the cargo bay where wounded prisoners received treatment from emergency medical kits. The rescue operation had succeeded beyond their most optimistic projections, but the cost in human suffering was enormous. Kevin sat up slowly and described the research facility as just one of several installations where humans were being held throughout Zephyrian space. The alien empire had been conducting systematic studies of human capabilities for over 2 years. The rescued prisoners included scientists and engineers whose knowledge would be valuable for human colonies, but also ordinary people who had simply been in the wrong place when Zephyrian ships arrived, men and women who had become test subjects in alien experiments. Lisa listened to their stories and felt her anger growing at the scope of the conspiracy that had stolen so many lives. The Galactic Council had enabled these crimes through willful ignorance, while positioning themselves as protectors of galactic peace. The Meridian waited silently among the asteroids while its crew planned their next move. They had evidence of alien atrocities and 31 witnesses who could testify about Zephyrian crimes, but they still faced the challenge of returning to human space alive. Their rescue mission had succeeded, but it was only the beginning of a larger conflict that would determine whether humans remained free to explore the galaxy or became permanent subjects of alien research programs designed to understand and control their unique capabilities. The Meridian drifted silently among the asteroids while Lisa studied sensor readings that showed Zephyrian search ships combing the debris field for any trace of their escape route. The alien vessels moved in systematic patterns, but their rigid search protocols created gaps that a human pilot might exploit. Pete Johnson worked frantically to repair the stealth systems, while the ship's hull radiated heat from their escape through the asteroid field. The modifications were responding to his efforts, but would need time to reach full effectiveness before they could attempt another run-through. Alien-controlled space in the cargo bay. Kevin sat with other rescued prisoners and shared what he had learned during months of captivity in the research facility. The Zephyrians had been conducting experiments designed to understand human adaptability and the mental processes that allowed them to survive impossible situations. The alien researchers had been particularly interested in human tactical thinking and the ability to improvise solutions using available resources. Every test was designed to measure creativity and resilience while pushing subjects to their breaking points. Kevin described how the prisoners had organized themselves despite the alien attempts to isolate and control them. They had maintained discipline and morale through a network of communication that their captors never discovered because it relied on human intuition rather than logical systems. Maria Santos listened to the prisoner reports while planning their escape from the Arcturus system. The Zephyrians would be expecting them to flee toward human space using the most direct routes, but human unpredictability might allow them to find an alternative path. Carter coordinated with Danny Kim to monitor alien communications for any indication that their rescue operation had been reported to higher authorities. The diplomatic meeting at the research facility was still in progress, but security forces were clearly agitated about the break-in. The rescued prisoners included Dr. Helen Chang, who had been studying ancient ruins when her archaeological team was captured. She provided crucial intelligence about Zephyrian research goals and the alien fear of human expansion into regions containing pre-technological civilizations. According to Dr. Chang, the Zephyrians believed that human contact with ancient alien ruins might unlock technologies that could challenge their empire's dominance of local space. The archaeological teams had been captured to prevent discovery of artifacts that could shift the balance of power. Jake Sullivan prepared weapons and equipment for the next phase of their mission. While treating wounds received during the facility assault, the pulse rifle burns would heal, but he remained combat effective. Despite the alien energy weapon damage, Lisa made the decision to attempt communication with human space despite the risk of revealing their position to Zephyrian monitors. The evidence they had gathered needed to reach Earth immediately to prevent the diplomatic cover-up that would follow their operation. Danny began transmitting burst communications toward the nearest human colony while using techniques designed to make the signals appear to originate from multiple locations. The confusion might buy them time to escape before alien forces could triangulate their position. The transmission contained video testimony from rescued prisoners along with detailed intelligence about Zephyrian research activities in the locations of other facilities where humans were being held. Dr. Chang provided archaeological data that proved alien interference with human exploration within hours of the transmission. Human colonies throughout the border regions began receiving the evidence of Zephyrian crimes. Colonial governors and military commanders who had suspected alien involvement in missing ship reports finally had proof of the conspiracy. Lisa watched communications traffic explode as human space erupted in outrage over the revelation of systematic kidnapping and experimentation. Civilian ships began converging on the Arcturus system from a dozen different colonies, while military vessels ignored Galactic Council orders to stand down. The response exceeded their most optimistic projections, as ordinary humans refused to accept that their people had been subjected to alien research programs. Merchant captains and colonial militia units joined forces with discharged military personnel to create an impromptu rescue fleet. Pete reported that the stealth systems were approaching operational status as human ships began arriving at the edge of the asteroid field. The growing fleet included everything from cargo haulers to luxury yachts crewed by people determined to bring their fellow humans home. Carter established communication with the arriving ships and coordinated a search pattern that would locate other Zephyrian facilities in the system. Intelligence from the rescued prisoners indicated that the research station was just one of several installations hidden among the asteroids. The aliens had underestimated human reaction to the discovery of their crimes and were unprepared for the massive civilian response that overwhelmed their security forces. Zephyrian ships found themselves outnumbered 50-1 by angry humans, who had no intention of following Galactic Council protocols. Lisa piloted the Meridian out of hiding, as human ships established control over large sections of the asteroid field. The rescue fleet had grown to over 300 vessels, including several ships carrying medical personnel to treat prisoners found in other facilities. Jake led boarding parties that discovered 2 additional research installations where humans were being held under conditions similar to what they had found at the first facility. The evidence of alien atrocities continued to mount as more prisoners were freed from captivity. The diplomatic meeting at the main research facility ended abruptly as Zephyrian officials realized that their secret programs had been exposed to human scrutiny. Galactic Council representatives demanded explanations while alien security forces prepared to destroy evidence. Kevin worked with other rescued scientists to analyze alien research data and understand the full scope of the Zephyrian project. The aliens had been studying human capabilities with the goal of developing countermeasures that would neutralize human advantages in any future conflict. Dr. Chang discovered that the Zephyrians had been planning to present their research findings to the Galactic Council, with recommendations for restricting human expansion into space. The alien empire feared that humans would eventually challenge their dominance through superior adaptability. The rescue operation had prevented that presentation and exposed the conspiracy to human public opinion. Colonial governments were demanding immediate action, while military commanders prepared for conflict if the Galactic Council failed to provide justice. Lisa received communications from Earth confirming that the evidence had reached the highest levels of human government. Emergency sessions were being called while diplomatic protests flooded Galactic Council chambers with demands for Zephyrian accountability. The asteroid field that had protected alien research facilities now sheltered a growing human fleet determined to rescue every prisoner and expose every crime committed against their species. The balance of power in local space was shifting as humans demonstrated their unity in the face of alien oppression. Maria reported successful raids on 3 more facilities where human prisoners had been held in conditions that violated every principle of galactic law. The evidence would make it impossible for the Council to ignore Zephyrian crimes or dismiss human complaints. Carter coordinated the evacuation of over 200 rescued prisoners while documenting the medical evidence of alien experimentation. The testimony would provide irrefutable proof of systematic torture, designed to understand and exploit human capabilities. As the human fleet prepared to leave the Arcturus system, they carried with them evidence that would reshape the political structure of local space. The Zephyrian Empire's secret research program had been exposed while their victims lived to tell the story of alien atrocities. Lisa felt satisfaction as she watched the last rescue ships clear the asteroid field, carrying freed prisoners toward safety in human space. The mission that had begun with 3 words had grown into a revolution that would change everything. The Meridian joined the convoy heading toward human territory, while behind them Zephyrian facilities burned and alien officials scrambled to contain the political damage from their exposed crimes. The age of human submission to alien authority was ending in the flames of their own making. The human convoy reached the edge of the Sol system 6 days after the rescue operation began, and found a fleet of military vessels waiting to escort them home. Earth Defense Force ships that had been recalled from Deep Space Patrol now formed an honor guard for the returning heroes and rescued prisoners. Lisa piloted the Meridian toward Luna Station while watching news broadcasts that showed massive protests outside Galactic Council facilities throughout human space. The evidence of Zephyrian crimes had sparked outrage that transcended political boundaries and united humanity against alien oppression. Kevin sat beside her in the pilot's cabin and described the moment when he realized that his archaeological team was being used as test subjects rather than research partners. The Zephyrians had been studying human problem-solving abilities while pretending to collaborate on historical projects. The rescued prisoners had provided testimony that filled thousands of pages with detailed accounts of alien experimentation designed to understand human adaptability and tactical thinking. Medical examinations revealed evidence of surgical procedures and drug trials that violated every principle of galactic law. Dr. Helen Chang worked with military intelligence officers to analyze the alien research data they had captured during the rescue operation. The Zephyrians had been preparing to recommend severe restrictions on human expansion based on their fear of human unpredictability and resilience. Carter debriefed with Earth Defense Force commanders, while Pete Johnson shared technical specifications for the stealth modifications that had made their mission possible. The success of human improvisation against alien technology provided valuable intelligence for future operations. Jake Sullivan found himself promoted to colonel in a new special operations unit dedicated to rescuing humans held in alien facilities throughout the galaxy. Intelligence reports suggested that the Zephyrians had operated similar research programs in at least 12 different star systems. Maria Santos became an instructor at the military academy where she taught courses on asymmetric warfare and the tactical advantages of human flexibility over alien logic. Her experiences fighting in the research facility provided lessons that would benefit future operations. Danny Kim received assignment to a signals intelligence unit that monitored alien communications for evidence of continued crimes against human prisoners. The networks they had used to coordinate the rescue operation became the foundation for expanded intelligence gathering. The Galactic Council convened emergency sessions to address the crisis created by the exposure of Zephyrian research programs. Human representatives demanded justice while alien diplomats struggled to contain the political damage from revelations of systematic torture. The Zephyrian Empire found itself isolated as other Council member species distanced themselves from the exposed atrocities. The careful balance of power that had maintained galactic peace for centuries began crumbling under the weight of human outrage and alien guilt. Lisa received command of a new exploration vessel designed specifically for deep space missions beyond the reach of alien interference. The ship represented humanity's declaration that they would no longer accept restrictions on their expansion into the galaxy. The rescued prisoners required months of medical treatment and psychological counseling to recover from their ordeal, but their testimony provided irrefutable evidence of alien crimes. Public hearings broadcast throughout human space showed the galaxy exactly what the Zephyrians had done. Kevin returned to his archaeological work, but now focused on sites in human-controlled space where ancient ruins might contain technologies that could defend Earth against future alien aggression. His experience as a prisoner had taught him that some species only understood strength. The 3 words that had started their mission became a rallying cry for human independence from alien authority. They took Kevin appeared on protest signs and military banners as humanity declared its intention to protect its people, regardless of galactic politics. Earth's military budget increased dramatically as colonial governments demanded protection from alien aggression. New ships and weapons based on human tactical doctrine began rolling off production lines while recruitment offices saw unprecedented volunteer rates. The Meridian was retired to a place of honor at the Space Academy, where it served as a monument to human courage and determination. Students studied the rescue mission as an example of what could be accomplished when people refused to accept injustice. Carter established a foundation to help rescued prisoners readjust to civilian life while documenting their experiences for historical records. The testimony would ensure that future generations understood the price of trusting alien promises of friendship. The asteroid field at Arcturus became a memorial site where the destroyed research facilities reminded visitors of the horrors that had been inflicted on human prisoners. Flowers from Earth bloomed in hydroponic gardens that honored the victims of alien experimentation. Lisa stood on the observation deck of her new ship and watched the stars that no longer represented frontier to be explored under alien supervision. Human vessels now carried the message that some species would not be intimidated or controlled by claims of superior civilization. The Zephyrian research program had been designed to understand human capabilities in order to develop countermeasures against human expansion. Instead, it had demonstrated that human unity and determination could overcome any obstacle when their people were threatened. Galactic Council authority collapsed in human space as colonial governments declared independence from alien oversight. The careful political structure that had restricted human growth gave way to an explosion of exploration and settlement throughout the local stellar region. Trade relationships with alien species continued but on terms dictated by human interests rather than council regulations. Some aliens chose cooperation while others found themselves excluded from human space entirely based on their response to the Zephyrian crisis. The rescue mission had saved 237 human prisoners from alien research facilities, But its greater accomplishment was proving that humans would not accept victimization. The galaxy had learned that some species were too stubborn to be conquered. Kevin often visited Lisa aboard her exploration vessel, where they discussed the ancient ruins that might hold keys to technologies beyond current understanding. The archaeological sites that had cost him months of captivity now represented humanity's future among the stars. The words they took Kevin had triggered a revolution that reshaped the political balance of local space and established humanity as a force that would not be controlled or contained. The age of human submission to alien authority had ended in the asteroid fields of Arcturus. Lisa commanded her ship toward unknown regions, where human colonies would grow without alien interference or oversight. Behind her, Earth's fleets spread throughout the galaxy, carrying the message that humanity would determine its own destiny among the stars. The mission that had begun in a dim bar on Luna Station, with 3 words from a discharged soldier, had grown into a declaration of independence that would echo through the galaxy for generations. Humans had proven that some species were simply too resilient to be contained. Years later, historians would mark the Arcturus rescue as the moment when humanity stopped asking permission to explore the galaxy and started taking what they needed to survive. The Zephyrian research program had created the very resistance they had hoped to prevent. The stars belonged to those brave enough to claim them, and humans had proven they possessed the courage to face any challenge the galaxy could offer. 3 words had changed everything and opened a future where human determination would carry them to the farthest reaches of space.